Sequential indicators. They look great, and this car doesn't have them. Now, to replace the rear lights on this is going to be a pretty penny, but we can put some sequential indicators on for a lot less. We're going to look at these today. That's a quick one. Stay tuned. Now, you can pick up these units online for about £40. We did it on the F-Pace and the F-Type. Check it out if you haven't already, and it should be a pretty quick fix. We pop this cover off. There should be one, maybe two bolts holding this in. Plug and play a new unit in, and then you've got sequential indicators. Famous last words. Let's give it a go and see how easy it is. Now, these have arrived online. Again, type of thing you can pick up from China for very cheap. You can pay a bit more on eBay for them to come from the UK, but you get exactly the same thing that you'd get as if you went to China. So these are smoked, again, much the same as the F-Type, rather than that clear plastic. And it looks to me as if there are two bolts that come off and one plug to make this work. So what's really handy is it does come with a tool to pry off those mirror caps. So let's pop off the mirror caps, let's get the new indicators on and see how easy this really is. So what I'm going to do is ever so gently roll the mirror back a bit so that I can get into this side down here. Now, the theory behind this is I should be able to just pop this off and all of this should unclip relatively easy, but famous last words. Let's give it a go. I'm not going to take the glass out. I don't want to risk damaging this. It's the auto dimming glass based on the anti-dazzle. Expensive to replace, so let's leave that well alone and let's just target this cover. There we go. So after a gentle bit of brute force, that cap's come off and it's exposed the two bolts that we need to remove here, little Torx bolts. You can see the plug just in there. So let's whip those off, get the plug off, plug the new unit in and see how easy this really is. Now, the new indicators came with the correct size Torx bit for the job, which is really handy. And just go careful not to drop and lose the bolt. And there's the second one. Just like that. There we go. One indicator removed, so let's get the new one in. Now, these are handed, so make sure you get the correct one, and we're just going to peel this off before it slots in, otherwise that blue tape's going to get trapped and it's going to be hard. Well, it's going to be hard to get it off, so let's plug that in. Just being careful not to trap any of these cables. Going to get the mirror indicator into position and then just test it. There we go. So hopefully now, perfect. So let's get these bolts back in, 1, 2, let's get that cover back on, and that's job done on this side. So that's nice and secure back in there. Let's pop this cover back on. There we go, that's better. It just needed a little whack to get it on there. And that is one side done. And that looks quite smart with the smoked, opposed to having the chrome, which always looks a bit weird when you've got a car that's got the black pack on anyway around the windows and everywhere, and then you're left with a chrome light. I always think that looks really strange, but anyway, happy with that. Let's get around the other side and do that one. So exactly the same as the first side. Gently move the mirror back. We're just going to work our way around and gently unclip. Sounds awful, doesn't it? As much of this as we can. Right, that is always terrifying, the noises that makes. Let's put that somewhere safe, out of the way where it's not going to get scratched, and we'll do that. Much the same as the first side. 2 bolts to come out, which they're self-tapping screws into the plastic, so they're quite tight. And then once they're out, we can whip this off. Please don't go flying. There we go. Right. 2 bolts out. Let's get this. It really is snug in there. There we go. I would hazard a guess, if you were doing this properly, you should probably have to take that off, given how tight it is. Again, let's undo the plug. Plug out, and then we'll get the new unit. Get that blue off, get it out the way, and it's just a reversal of the removal to put the new one back in. And again, before we get too carried away bolting everything back together, let's just test that by blipping the key. Perfect, that's all good. And again, careful not to trap the wires. Let's get this in. There we go. Let's get those 2 back in, and then we can get the cover back on. Oh, it just makes the most horrible noises, but there we go. Jobs are good, and let's check that they fold still, having been messing around with them. Lovely, and then unlock. That's really smart. Now, I do want to find sweeping indicators for the headlight. We've got them there now, but also for the back here. Now, if anyone's aware of a kit that does that, please do let me know. I'd be keen to hear about it. And just something to be aware of if you're doing this yourself at home. In the, let's try and get this focused, in the new ones of these, so the ones that we bought, the pins that were in that plug there, see those 2 pins there? They were ever so slightly bent and just needed teasing over so that the new plug, or the existing plug, would go into the new unit properly. So just be aware, you might need to move the pins over. But anyway, that's it for another video. Thanks for sticking around, guys. If you're not already, please do sub by hitting that button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Does a good enough job of braking itself. Oh, and I've dropped the bolt. The thing I said don't do, I've dropped it, and it's all going on.